Okay, hello chat. Great day in Seahawks history. Now, unfortunately, some of you in the chat, you're going to ruin it. And I'm not going to name names here, but for those of you who do get timed out, just know you deserved it. I wouldn't want this to overshadow
the Mad
the fun
King
events.
Matty is back.
Yeah. We've got Ty here, so some extra kind of flack for...
back, baby.
Yeah, extra flack for me to take.
Three's coming.
I'll have you guys know that I called Matty on FaceTime to get him here. So
Yeah,
make sure
only
he
audio.
was on his P's and Q's.
Only audio, so it's lucky it wasn't video.
Right.
Yeah. You'd have seen.
I don't know what I might find if I call you on video. Yeah.
Do you know? Well, what you would have seen is like lots of tea just all over the floor,
just everywhere. Did you spill tea again?
Yeah, I actually did. I spilled it on. I spilled it on like this folder, which like when you get something out and then you don't put it away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
sure.
Like the important,
Relatable.
house, life stuff. Like you need this thing. Probably best not to spill tea. Yeah, I've spilled tea on it.
Oh no.
Well, yeah, it's drying though, so that's nice. And the desk is ruined, but it's fine. Yeah.
Well, you guys need to donate so we can get Matty a new desk.
Yeah. By the way, saw some of you pointing out that the Stripe donation link was busted. I've fixed it.
It keeps looking it keeps like I've been posting the link, but then it's like busted again when it's in there.
Strange.
Like it keeps on saying expired or whatever. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I fixed it, so there you go. And we're gonna have an exciting guest on Wednesday, chat, to preview the Ravens. Probably the best guest to do that.
Yeah, it's gonna be
an
great.
Early Lamar Jackson fan.
Yes, very well informed.
Proponent, not just a fan. Yeah.
Would you guys say that it's going to be Lamarvelous?
Yeah.
I'd say it's going to be class.
Oh, there's an Easter egg.
Do you have puffins in the United States of America?
Yeah.
Puffins?
Wait, the actual bird or the cereal?
What? What is the cereal?
Okay, well that answers that question.
Okay.
We have a wheat thing.
We have a cereal called Puffins. I
Wow.
never ate it, but it exists.
Oh, you never ate it though.
Right. I'd see it at the store.
Mm-hmm.
There are puffins in the Canadian Arctic, and I totally knew that off the top, and definitely did not Google it just now.
Man, that's cold for them.
Oh
my word!
Holy moly! You're gonna get that new desk, Matty.
Yeah. Fats, thank you so much for the donation.
Fats, that was very kind of you.
Thank you, Fats. Don't know if you have a question with that, Fats, to get us going, but thank you. That's very kind. I guess yours. We owe you, Fats. No, but you should have blamed me. But also, we were planning stuff.
The ironic part though is that I was ready before Matty, but then like 5-10 minutes after Matty got here, I had to go do something.
I'm very surprised that you did not get lost in the woods.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of know my way around by now, even when it's dark.
It looks very dark.
It gets a little dicey at times. The flashlight, I can still make my way around. But that flashlight, there's something wrong with it, like because it's telescopic, so you can change its like radius.
What?
And if you adjust it in such a way, it will turn off and it won't turn back on until you have to play with it. That's a little disconcerting in the woods.
Oh, it's like a twister.
It's like a bop it. It's a bop it flashlight.
Well, no, it doesn't twist. You pull and it's telescopic. You pull it and it retracts.
Yeah, so it's a bop it.
Yeah.
Flick it.
Twist.
Did you guys have bop it? Yeah.
Yeah, we got those.
Yeah, bop it. Yeah.
It was Hasbro, right?
Yeah,
probably.
Massive,
no free ads.
Massive American company.
No free ads.
I was pretty good at it too.
Yeah.
I mean, not to brag. But
yeah, I was good as well, actually, so that's fine.
Well, not
I
as
never
good as
had.
me.
I never had a bobber.
Yeah, I had the record in England. So
Yeah, well, I
Really?
had the record in America, and America's
okay, well we
bigger
had
than
an
England.
actual
So.
championship and everything, so it's fine. But whatever, we're probably better at it. So, don't worry. Okay.
Yes,
Um,
Gots, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't
See,
even trying, so whatever.
you know, not that I am the leader. We're all like equal in this, but a good leader, they they cover up for stuff. They take responsibility when it could be the fault of others. You know, it's just part of keeping the ship together.
Right. I'm never at fault though.
Yeah, right. And behind the scenes, it's a mess, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm perfect.
Right.
So.
Yeah, we need the Lions to lose this game, don't
Yeah.
we?
Yeah, we need the Lions to lose.
Are they doing that? We go to our reporter live on the scene.
Well, the Detroit
guys.
Lions are leading the Las Vegas Raiders by 2 points. And we need them to lose.
Can we have the time, please?
Yeah, it's 16-14. There's 6:23 left in the third, and apparently
6:23. My
Not a
thing
ball
says
game left.
6:24.
according to source Jen, the Lions have fumbled on the 4-yard line.
Oh,
Wow. Source Jen, let's go.
Let's
That is
go.
saucy.
That is saucy or saucy.
So, chat, we did promise a preamble topic of power ranking the NFL tunes of Fox, CBS, other networks.
Yep. No free ads.
Nailed it. No free ads. Yeah. We don't have a problem with ESPN. We just... Nah.
Cut us a check.
Right. We'll do that on Sunday because the game is on CBS and we get Jim Nantz and Tony Romo and
Yeah,
That'll
and
be
we
great.
and the CBS song was like the one that we couldn't really remember, so it'll be fresh in our minds
yeah, maybe
right after that.
if we haven't muted the television.
Or maybe it's completely forgettable.
Right. Which would just be a complete indictment. And also, it's quite a bad idea because it's not like we can play out the songs because we're just going to get copyright striked. So.
I think we should just like say that from the top. Like if we can't remember the CBS song after watching the CBS broadcast, like it automatically winds up in the trash tier.
Yeah, it's just straight up dumb.
Yeah, like it's out. So look forward to that. We're gonna be ranking music. Us three. Music aficionados.
Yeah. Right. Should we? Well, I haven't actually been told to do it. Griff, do you have a preamble topic?
yeah, we can save that for another time. We have to start earlier with it.
Wow.
My only preamble topic is hit it, Matty. Matty, hit it.
Hit it.
Welcome to the Seattle Overload podcast, an emergency podcast because the Seahawks, we knew it was the trade deadline coming up and they have acquired via trade defensive lineman Leonard Williams from the New York Giants. They've given up a 2024 second round pick and a 2025 fifth round pick in this massive news. What that means also is that part of this equation, it seems steep at first, given Williams is in the last year of his deal. Seattle gets around 10 games from him, maybe more of the postseason. The Giants have taken up about most of that salary of a signing bonus, and Seattle's paying him the vet minimum, which is just over $600,000 for this year. And I imagine Seattle's banking on the ability to get Williams to... re-sign when he sees the culture there. If he did depart, they'd obviously get a fairly high compensatory pick, and they're banking on their second round pick that they've given up being fairly low down given their success this season. 5-2, first place in the NFC West, second place in the NFC, if you need a reminder of that. Ty, what was your first reaction to this news?
Yeah, initial reaction was chills. Let's get some chills going on in the chat right now.
Chills
folks.
in the chat.
Chills.
Post those chilly emojis.
Schneider did it again. Yeah. So initial reaction was like, all right, second rounder seems pretty aggressive for a guy that's gonna give you 10 guaranteed games the rest of the year. But then the thing came out about how the Giants are basically eating the entire contract. And then you really like think about it, right? Like they got the additional 3rd-round pick from Denver during the draft. That's going to be, whether that's going to be from the Saints or the Broncos, that's going to be a fairly high pick. So essentially you're looking at it as like a pick swap. And that's going to be what? If this trade works out properly, it's going to be, you're moving down like 15 to 18 spots in a draft that's not, at least as far as I can tell so far, not going to be super deep. So I like it. I really like, I think the Seahawks should be applauded just for the sake of like, we're 5-2, we're in first place. Depending on what happens tonight, we're the 2nd seed in the NFC right now. Let's just go for it. Like, we feel like we have all the talent in the world to compete with anyone on any given night. Yeah, we're like, all right, look, I'm not picking the Seahawks over the Eagles, and I feel like they're probably in that stack of like the Niners, Lions, Cowboys. Like, they're a lot closer to those teams than they are the Eagles. But I also feel like they can beat anyone. So give yourself the best chance once you get to January, because I think we can firmly say like the Seahawks are at least a playoff team. Whether they win the division or whether they just get in as a wild card, like they're going to be a playoff team. So give yourself the best chance to do as much damage as possible in the postseason. And it's not like, look, you're not like, it's going for it, but it's not going for it. Like you didn't send like multiple 1st-round picks or a 1st-round pick to like the Panthers for Brian Burns, for example, right? Just to pull something out of thin air here.
Yeah.
It's a 2nd-round pick, but it's also, probably going to be a late 2nd-round pick, but still you're going for it a little bit here, and you're trying to give yourself a chance to do as much damage as possible in January. And I love it from that aspect. So I'm really excited to hear what you guys have found watching the tape, because I know you guys have watched a little bit. I know Griff has watched quite a bit. Matty, I know you watched at least one game. I don't know if you watched more than that today, but yeah, really excited to hear what you guys have to say about him and how he's going to fit into this whole thing. But overall, just in terms of like acquisition cost, the statement it makes, etc., like I really like the deal for Seattle. And I also like the deal for New York, just to both sides it, if you will.
Yeah, on the deal, I guess it's important context that, when the Jets traded the Williams to the Giants gave up a 2020 3rd rounder and a 2021 5th rounder. So essentially, them taking on all of his contract for this year has raised that total to a 2nd-round pick, whereas when they acquired him, they were still taking on his cap hit, and then they placed the franchise tag on him, and then they placed the franchise tag on him, and then they signed him to a 3-year, $63 million contract in 2021. So he has a lot of leverage, given he's already been tagged twice, and all of that stuff. We'll see how it all shakes out. But Griff, what was your immediate reaction to this? I know you had a bit of the doom. You are prone to doom sometimes. You get scared when a team, after begging a team to make something happen and having all your machinations and your boards and your weird little
no negative tweeter. See Mike's spin move.
Yeah, absolutely. Then suddenly you're like, oh my gosh, they did it. They did something.
Yeah. So my gut reaction was, whoa, they did something. Like that's stimulus. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as I kind of digested that it was Leonard Williams, I was a little, my spirits were a little dampened, because my preconceived notion of Leo was that he was kind of not that good. Perhaps, like a firmly good player, but not anything better than that. Not a Pro Bowl caliber player. And that was my view of him. I kind of thought he was kind of akin to Draymond Jones, the Draymond Jones that we've come to know, not the Draymond Jones that maybe we thought we were getting, or maybe Draymond Jones was never that to begin with. Still, Draymond Jones is an above average player, and he's been coming on strong. But it's like those were my initial thoughts, and I thought, well, if you had two Draymond Jones, stylistically they're not that similar, but if you had the effect of 2 Draymond Jones players along with Jaron Reed and Mario Edwards. I mean, you feel pretty good about that. Like, it's still good. So I like the I like the concept behind the move. But then I read the second round pick combined with who I thought Leo to be. Like, really, this really feels like just too much. Like they lost out in negotiations. Maybe another team jacked the price up. And then I started to think more about it, and pretty much all the things Ty said. I mean, this is really like, you have extra draft capital for a reason, so you can use it. This is them using it. It really is. It's functionally a pick swap, and they're using the extra third round pick to their advantage right now, because it will only come out to if they're drafting in the high 20s or mid 20s, in all likelihood, then they're just swapping like 15, 20 slots to get Leo Williams for free, basically cap-wise. So I mean, I think that's fair value and value up. And then I did the classic, actually watching the player and coming to your own conclusion.
Well, you can do that?
Bold.
Yeah, apparently.
That's allowed.
And I'll say this, before I watched him, I went and looked at his advanced stats, as we all do, because that's the first thing, because it's so available and it's easy to digest. And he did much better in those numbers than I thought. His ESPN's pass rush win rate, he's like 19th out of 100 guys. That's pretty good, like, especially with who he's clustered with, because he's like right up there with like 5 guys at 12-13%. And then his PFF is what it is, right? But I mean, it's better to do well in it than not, right? So he does well by pass rush grade. And then I think there is one measure that PFF Move puts out a chart of every week or every so often, that gives more context to PFF grades, at least in the sense that it controls for difficulty of assignment. And basically he grades well relative to his quote unquote expected grade. So that's another positive data point. And then by PFF, he also has a good pressure rate too. The only site that doesn't give him anything that registers well statistically is Sports Info Solutions. They have different definitions of pressure. He does not register high on the pressure scale there. It's like 8%. So I did find that interesting. So I thought, okay, well, there's a pretty good spread here. At least there's some congruence between ESPN and PFF, but then, I'm just going to go watch them and see what I think. And the first Dallas game, there aren't a lot of opportunities to like really pop off. Like there weren't like a lot of clean one-on-ones with good angles, but he played fine. He did some things against the run. San Francisco, they really worked it. They did some overload fronts. They found some ways, or he just happened to find himself on the backside of the slide where he had a two-way go with the guard, and he wins. He has like 7 or 8 pressures that game against the 49ers, who have a good D-line or good O-line. In the following game, the Cardinals, it's kind of like a repeat of the Cowboys game, except he has like a couple clean wins as a pass rusher. And then and then I remembered, well, he did play well against the Seahawks. And so that's all I've watched so far. So that combined with Matty, what you saw from Washington, where he kind of started slow in that game, but then really came on. And you could talk about that Washington game and what else you've watched. My conclusion is that they got a player who is, in my opinion, definitively better than Draymond Jones. And I say that appreciating Draymond Jones, but just to give an idea, like he's better than Draymond. He's probably closer to Reed's level than not. And Reed is probably somewhere like the 10th to 15th best DT this year. So Leo's right up there with him. And then, you could talk about scheme fit. I think the Seahawks scheme, the way Clint Hurd is scheming, will give him even more opportunities to go one-on-one. Wink Martindale sends so much pressure. I mean, yes, that gives guys one-on-ones, but sometimes you're kind of sacrificing the D-line to get someone free at the second level, or free from the second level to rush. So there's just a lot more like clean, like the Seahawks are primarily a rush 14. They'll just be able to win. And I'm really excited to see what he looks like at 3 technique opposite Jaron Reed, because teams are sliding to Jaron Reed because they're afraid of him. So he's going to have that backside two-way go one-on-one consistently. And then if they start sliding to him, then Jaron Reed's going to get more one-on-ones and he's going to shoot that gap. And then I think you can even do things you can put Draymond Jones and Leo on the field at the same time. One play, one technique, one play, 3 technique. Because again, the way they're scheming it, like it almost doesn't matter. You almost don't need an anchor there. And then of course, permutations with stunting and everything. And Matty, you can we'll talk about that more in depth. So I know you have thoughts there. But anyway, so I'm very stoked by the whole thing.
Yeah. So very quickly before we talk more, thank you so much, Brendan. I see you got a super sticker. Thank you, Brendan. And also remember, Brendan is I forget Brendan's exact role, but Brendan, I think, owns Elm Coffee Roasters, which is Seattle based. So if you like your coffee, and whenever I am next in Seattle, which hopefully soon, I will be going there. So Brendan, thank you. And your super sticker is amazing. You get like a light blue aubergine. No, pear. A light blue pear with a mirror or maracas. I don't know, you have to check it out on YouTube. Thank you so much, Brendan. Appreciate that. Hold
up. This is almost as good as a super chat. It's the next best thing.
Yeah, well,
Matty's hair is looking on point. Looking very
OG3's redemption arc.
Yeah.
Trying to get back on the good side of the Mad King, Matty.
Is OG3 just buttering you up, Matty? Is he just trying to get on your good side?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Potentially. So, before I sort of share my tape observations of Williams, I guess some like brief overview stuff. He was a 6th overall pick in 2015, and I think when it's the top 10 kind of guy, we've seen around the NFL how their value often kind of stays at a certain point, doesn't it? Rightly or wrongly. Well, you could say wrongly. But yeah, he was productive. He's had 132 career games, 39.5 sacks, 59 tackles for loss, 162 quarterback hits, and he was selected to the Pro Bowl in his second season in 2016. This year, he has 1.5 sacks, 1 tackle for loss, 5 quarterback hits. But the real thing with him is in 2020, his big year for the Giants, his first full season with them, he had 11.5 sacks, and that's pretty crazy for an interior lineman, and 14 tackles for loss. That production's
He had 30 quarterback hits that year, too.
Yes, 30 quarterback hits, yeah. Then in 2021, 6.5 sacks, 14 quarterback hits. Then he got paid, and 2022, 2.5 sacks, 12 quarterback hits, 5 tackles for loss, and then 2023, as I said, 1.5 sacks. So the production's gone down a bit, and he's not old, but he just turned 29 in June. He'll be 30 next year when Seattle thinks about whether they can pay him or not. There's a kind of discussion to be had of when he's playing next to Dexter Lawrence at the nose tackle position, how, could he have been more productive? Is it surprising that he wasn't going off even more? I mean, Lawrence is playing out of his mind. So that's kind of interesting to me. Now, watching the tape, and that Washington game was where I started because that was week 7 and the week 8 All-22 is not out yet, at least for us. So watching that, I was kind of like, oh, this is not as explosive as I thought, because I kind of viewed him as a really kind of guy who shouldn't be able to move for the size that he has, and he wins off like a first step and then his ability to go speed to power on dudes, basically. Testing-wise, coming out, he was 6'5", 302 pounds, 34 and 5/8 with an inch long arms, which is incredibly long arm length. And a 1.72 second 10-yard split and a 4.97 seconds 40, which is 73rd and 78th percentiles for all defensive tackles at that kind of size with that arm length is pretty damn impressive, along with a 4.53 second short shuttle, which is 74th percentile. But I know he had an MCL thing that was cleared up in 2022, an MCL sprain. So I wasn't blown away to start off with in that Washington game on how he was rushing guards tight. But I think some of this is... now, there's some positives to the scheme that the Giants run in terms of how that translates to Seattle, but the way that their rush plan was, it was like he was really trying to work speed to power super tight on dude. And I think part of that is the way that Wink Martindale pressures, he's trying to set stuff up for people rushing behind him. But I also think he was trying to set up later wins in the game where he started rushing wider on dudes. And so when Griff talks about him being in an overload lines or away from the slide and having the two-way go on guys because he's one-on-one, I think that's where he gets really, really exciting. His effort was still high in that Week 7 game. He was getting after it against the run as well. But when he has a wider angle is when he gets intriguing to me, because he plays like he got that kind of bull in the china shop style. Like, it's just it's not that he doesn't have the technique, it's just so kind of frenetic and massive. Like, it's a lot of activity. And he also had a great game against Seattle. He got Damian Lewis a few times. So yeah, watching the tape, you can kind of see the vision, because even if he's not winning, he's a really kind of massive, fairly reliable pocket push guy. But then when he gets the opportunity to get upfield, and I don't know how much the Giants let him really go upfield. I think they kind of wanted him to occupy a blocker to then set up guys doing stuff. But when he's allowed to get upfield, and this Seattle system this year especially is all about letting those D linemen tee off and play fast upfield, especially on the interior, I think that really, really benefits his game. In the forefront that they run the most, the nickel over front, whether he's playing the 3 technique spot or the 1 technique spot, he's like a really solid fit for that on basically all of the downs. And it gives them the flexibility to take Jaron Reed off the field a bit and give him a rest, because he's playing a lot of snaps, and he has a gap shooting ability that I don't think, I think while I think Williams will benefit from being able to play more upfield, I don't think he's not like quick, but he can knock the crap out of guys. Like, when he's power stepping against the run, he plays so damn thick and is still able to then shed into his initial gap. Like, he ends up with his, say he's in the 3 tech, his helmet will end up in the A gap to start off with, but then he'll have knocked the guard back into the backfield, and he'll be able to stand the guard up and then shed into the B gap, rip through into the B gap. There's so many plays like that where it's in the same front that Seattle runs, basically. So there's a ton of tape from that where he's either playing a 3 tech in that nickel overlook with the Giants and the 2 wide edges like Seattle does, or he's playing a 3 tech in like an odd front, which Seattle runs kind of in their base stuff. So the fit is obvious in that sense.
Yeah.
So you guys have, or Matty, you pretty much touched upon this a little bit here, but for the most part, I've heard you guys really talk about him from the aspect of, or from the perspective of like his impact in pass rush. But what about in the run game? Like how do you feel he impacts the run game?
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
What I said. Go ahead, Griff. I just thought you were taking too long.
No. Yeah, I mean, he's a good run defender, and like, not to beat a dead horse, but like the scheme makes it so easy to accentuate what traits you have. And I just think he he's got a good anchor, but he can be penetrative against the run. He can be disruptive. One thing I have noticed is on the backside of zone, he's really hard for guards and tackles to reach. Yeah. So he works down the line really well. He can work back, like that's where his length is like really shows up. He can work back across a block even if he's not too gapping. At the point of attack, I mean, he can hold up doubles, especially long doubles and long combos. Can drive him a little bit. He tries to split those as early as he can. But fortunately, how the Seahawks scheme, they don't see a lot of combos and doubles stay on their D tackles that much. If they do, that means someone, which occasionally they do. If they do, that means the linebacker or nickel or safety is free behind him. So it's like, yeah, all right, go ahead, stay on him if you want, if you think you can move him. But Bobby Wagner, Jordan Brooks, Jamal Adams, Devin Witherspoon are right there, so it doesn't really matter. I am curious to see, because there are so many opportunities to get TFLs in this defense. I wonder, and Matty said, like, there are a lot of similarities between the front structure between Wink Martindale and what they're doing. I just feel like the Seahawks take that up a little bit, like one more notch, and I think
I don't know what the Giants linebackers are doing either. Like, it seemed Seattle this year, it stands out from what they were doing last year, but I think it would stand out comparing to like average to bad defenses league wide, right? The certainty that each player plays with allows more kind of aggression up front, right?
Yeah, I would agree. I just feel like they like everything Leo does well, I'm not saying the Giants didn't take advantage of that. I just feel like the Seahawks can do it even more. And I know that's like, well, why wouldn't every coach do that? It's like, well, there's a bigger picture to consider. Like Wink Martindale has this bigger picture. I'm not going to criticize Wink Martindale's philosophy of defense. I'm just saying the Seahawks' philosophy of defense just so happens to benefit Leo even more. So on that note, it's pretty cool. And Matty, like you said, regard with traits, what I see with him is it's a whole lot of like, if you think of, traits and skill set in terms of like just boxes to check off, he checks off. It's a whole lot of good. There's not a lot of great. There's almost no bad. It's all like he checks off every single box, like just decently, like Uchenna Nwosu does, but for the edge. Like he's very much like he's the equivalent of Nwosu at D tackle in terms of just he's a firmly good player. He's bad at nothing. He's high quality at everything. I don't think he possesses one elite trait other than length is a skill, and he uses it. So
and to that, I love that Nwosu point you've made there, Griff, because we saw what the defense having its crap together could do for someone like Nwosu. Like it kind of turned him into a very understated, low-key game wrecker, where he's disrupting plays on first, second, and third down. And getting wins in spots where, it looks, he's kind of taking a shot. It's not like he's just winning. He's outright winning. So, and I think there's no reason the same can't happen for Williams. Now, for PFF since 2022, 64 pressures, which is 7th most amongst defensive tackles, and 18 sacks since 2020, which is the 8th most among defensive tackles. So some more kind of numbers on the context. Seattle also has insight into him, I think, because the USC thing can get overplayed, and it's funny hearing Pete Carroll mention it as like a reason for paying more attention to him. You do wonder about kind of decision-making bias in the NFL. I think this, and also Pete being just a vibey guy. But he was, of course, recruited and played under Monte Kiffin when they were handling the fallout at USC. And it was Ed Orgeron, Ed O, who closed on Williams. He was the D-line coach then again. So I imagine Pete has some insight into the character. I found it interesting how he was praising how competitive he is and his toughness and how he's a good kid. He also mentioned how he can play across the line, 5-tech, 3-tech as a shade. And I almost wonder with his style and his ability to strike guys, if we see on the early downs him play more one technique over the center in a shade. And then on the late downs is when we see him play maybe 3. He could even play on the edge. Another option that they could do with this is Draymond, if they're worried about their ability to stop the run on the edge, and we can't overreact to one game, but they are without Nwosu. In the nickel front, what they could do is put Draymond Jones on the edge and have him take shots with his understanding of the scheme and play the outside linebacker spot when they're in the forefront. Because he's done that in his past in Denver, and it might shore it up more than, say, if Darrell Taylor has some struggles or Frank Clark takes too long to get it or is just not panning out. That's one way of doing it. Of course, Leonard Williams himself, some of his best reps come running games like when he's on the edge. He's got his hand in the dirt, but it's like outside the shade of a tackle guy. So I don't think that would be his type of role, especially how he looks fairly large right now. And like I said, I didn't see massive speed, or I think it's more maybe an option with Draymond Jones, who has played in a 2-point quite a bit in Denver. Just something to think about. But ultimately, I think Williams, he's going to be that interior kind of force, and it's kind of a plug and play thing, but a different style he's very, very different to Draymond Jones, like stylistically. And he brings something on the inside that I don't think Seattle has, that massive size, just the length. They didn't really, and even the way he strikes guys so thick and then is able to win back outside again. So
he's stylistically, skill set wise, he's an archetype of player that they've always coveted, right? Like Malik McDowell, I mean, even Mike Morris, it was this kind of it's the same vein, although like what Mike will be is totally it hasn't come to fruition yet, but they've always liked that really tall, lengthy 3 technique, and Pete's kind of even said that in the past. I mean, they like 3 techniques of all sizes because different skill sets can get it done. I mean, you've got Aaron Donald and Grady Jarrett, who are diminutive, compact, density, right? And then you've got the really tall, lengthy guys, Calais Campbell, Eric Armstead, DeForest Buckner. He's in that mold in terms of really accentuating all of his length. So it'll be cool to see them scheme with that in mind too. I'm watching some of his snaps against the Seahawks again, and like some of his wins it's just length being too much, him just being too long, and like that matters,
Yeah, what's interesting about the Washington game was he was trying to do that on their guards, like kind of tight and trying to shock them, and they were doing a really good job of how they set him, and they were very patient and waited for his hands. They didn't flash their hands early or anything like that, or leave their chest exposed in a bad way. But then he was able to kind of learn off that and start winning kind of wide on them. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it works out. And like I think that the aspect of Seattle's defense and how they're letting those defensive tackles get upfield is really interesting. Now, Ty, the Seahawks in 2024, Jordan Brooks is an undrafted free agent. Bobby Wagner is an undrafted free agent. So is Noah Fant, Damian Lewis, Evan Brown, Colby Parkinson. Obviously, Jamal Adams carries a $27 million cap hit. Quandre Diggs, $21 million. Will Disley, $10 million. And Brian Monet, remember him, he's $6 million. There's a few discussions over whether this is Seattle going all in. They've given up a second-round pick in 2024. Obviously, they have Denver's, or likely Denver's, but it's the worst pick for Seattle of the Saints or Denver in the 3rd round of next year's draft. But giving up this 2024 pick, having a big decision to make over whether they can re-sign Leo or Big Cat.
Sure, yeah.
Is this all in, Ty?
I mean, like I said, like they're going for it, but it's not like super going for it, if that makes sense. Like they could have been even more aggressive. I mean, in theory, right? Like we don't know like who was actually available, who's not, etc. But like there's a way, right, where you can be more aggressive, where you're like giving up 1st-round picks or multiple 1st-round picks, etc. But I mean, this is pretty aggressive for a team that's still kind of finding itself. Obviously, very talented, but still kind of finding itself.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not really sure like where they necessarily fit in the overall hierarchy of both the NFL and just the NFC. But again, like I think like any, to be really cheesy with it, any given Sunday, I think they can beat anyone. Like I think quite a few things have to go their way, but like I think they're more than talented enough to do real damage in January. So I love this move from that perspective of just like, you know what, we're in a really good position. Let's just see how far we can take this thing and put ourselves in the best position to do that. And I don't think they did anything today that's necessarily like prohibitive or restrictive of what they're going to be able to do in future years. I mean, they have levers they can pull next year to create more cap space. Not a ton, but they do have some. Really, like the key for me is like getting Brooks locked up, and whatever happens from that point forward happens. I don't really feel like it's too big of a thing to really like speculate if they're going to re-sign Leonard or not. Like we got to see how it all works. So like let's just wait and see on that before we get too ahead of ourselves on that front. But overall, like, the other thing too here that we should mention, and this kind of ties into the other thing that I wanted us to talk about, is so they have $7.6 million in cap space according to Over the Cap. I guess that goes down to 7 flat, right? Because you said that they're going to pay him
Yeah.
essentially like $600K for the rest of the year. So yeah, so that's essentially going to fall to like 7 flat after, well, I guess now the Williams deal is completed. So so they have about $7 million. Obviously, you want to have some of that for, emergency over the next, 10 weeks in case you just need to bring guys in, etc. But that also will roll over to next year, and I mean they're probably going to need every bit of cap space that they can get next year because of all the guys that are hitting free agency, like you said, and they're just overall going to want to get better too. So, but keeping that in mind that they do have some cap space here, do we think they're done adding? And should they be done adding? Like, is there anything you guys, either one of you, think they need to add still, or it'd be cool if they added? Because right now, like, they have a pretty, now that they've traded the 2nd round pick and now it's just they have the 1 and the 2 3s and everything else from that point forward, like they basically just have a normal draft capital, for the foreseeable future. So is there anything that you guys would like to see them do now following the Williams trade? Griff, I guess I'll start with you because you're the trade guy. You love trades.
You're enabling him.
I'm a deals guy. I love transactions. I love to transact.
Right.
I think in terms of moves that are like big moves, even like medium-sized moves, I think they shot their shot already. They were connected to, well, if they do make a minor move that is kind of that, low risk, medium reward, maybe even more than that, because you never know, right?
Like, is there a Quandre Diggs deal out there? That's what I'm kind of wondering. Like,
I
that
think,
type of thing.
I feel like the first position my mind goes to anyway, instinctively, is edge still, just because you're trying to ease the loss of Uchenna Nwosu. Obviously, they try to do that with Frank Clark a little bit. We'll see what happens with him. But like they were connected to Carl Lawson. Carl Lawson's a try-hard run defender. He's a skilled pass rusher, but I don't know what's going on with his knee. I don't know what his athleticism is like because he's had so many knee injuries. But anytime he's been on the field, he's been a good player. And this year, it's like either is he declining because he cannot get on the field with the Jets. The Jets have an absurdly deep D line. That's part of why he's not playing. But he's probably getting outplayed in practice. But like he had 7 sacks last year, and he was a good player by all accounts. I'd happily throw a 6th or 7th round pick at that and see if he can give you 10 to 20 snaps a game, and actually like have his snaps actually matter, because I would imagine he's still better than what Frank Clark did last Sunday. Now Frank Clark, again, it's his first game. He's barely played this year himself. He's been hurt. So he's got to get up to speed. But, I think about things like that. But beyond that, I can't think of any move that is feasible and realistic where, it actually makes them substantially better and it doesn't also cost them too much. So, because at this point, I feel like they want to keep their draft capital at, to this point.
Yeah, the problem is, I think the needs, or like where you'd want to make a move, it doesn't kind of sync up. The positional value is too high. Like the assets you'd need to acquire that is like too great. It's not like you need a safety where you can get one for a 5th round pick, or like even a nickel. Where back in like a Quandre Diggs, when he's kind of viewed as spare parts or whatever, you can get him for a 5th round pick, whereas some of these edges are going to go, they might not even go because of how expensive they're going to be. Maybe you could get one for like a 7th round pick. Like, I don't know what Carlos Dunlap will go for if he does go, but then is it even worth doing it for that team? Like, what do they gain out of that? I don't think it's likely. As much as getting an edge would be cool, like I don't know how much it will improve them. Realistically they're done, because I don't think they have any holes, gaping holes at edge, or which would be, I don't think they can improve themselves that much with what they'd be willing to give up. Like,
I think it's really just like
worth it.
Yeah, I think it's really just like if an opportunity presents itself with a player that maybe they liked in preseason or something, where it's just like.
And I also think what the Giants did in terms of taking on all the dead money kind of goes to show that like they're not wanting to stress their cap at all with this, because they probably view this offseason as a critical one to keep the remaining players that are due for deals, which we've already mentioned their names, Brooks and Lewis, and then they might need to make a decision with Jamal Adams too, and they might, who knows what's going on there. So
yeah. So what this also means is that Seattle won't pick in the second round, so they won't be able to take a running back. Haha. They
will pick in the second round after they trade back out of the first round.
Well, this is the thing, Ty. So they had been doing this kind of patient approach of not doing a deal where they go, wow, it's kind of a blockbuster, it's a big move, and they've done that for the past 2 drafts, and they've drafted pretty damn well. They've got some really good players, they've got some nice assets. Ty, in your view, is this who they've always been, in that they, think they're a really good team now, they're going to finish with a good record, they're going to be late in the draft, they don't feel like they have an early pick. Next year's draft cycle is supposedly not a good one either in terms of the top end talent. There's not many first round grades from the supposed draft experts. So is this them kind of saying, "Yep, we're good. We've always been like this, where we'll go all in when we think we're good. We don't have a high pick." Or is this them kind of scrapping what they've been trying to do for the last 2 years?
I think they recognize the moment that, like, you look around the league, not just the NFC, but the league as a whole, like, a lot of these teams are flawed, like super flawed. And obviously the Seahawks are too. But again, like, they can go toe to toe with any of these dudes, in my mind. And I think they believe that too, wholeheartedly. And the defense has, I think, changed our minds in a lot of ways, like fans' minds, and probably them as well. Like, I think even the defense has exceeded their expectations to a certain degree. And I think they're just trying to take advantage of that, strike while the iron is hot, essentially. So if I had to guess, I think that's really just it. And, like, again, they see the opportunity there, and this is the only, like, it's now or never in terms of, like, adding actual impact to the roster. So they just saw the opportunity, they took it. They're in first place right now. I don't know how much of, like, yesterday's results really factor into that. Probably not at all. But, like, they're in first place now. They're one of the best teams in the NFC. And yeah, they're just trying to give themselves the best opportunity they can to do damage. So I think that's really what it comes down to. I don't, and again, like, they didn't give up a ton. When you really break down the return in this deal, they're not giving up a ton. Because again, if like the deal even works out just on average, right? If it's just like an average ad for them, even, they're probably a divisional round team. So they're probably picking 24 to 27, I think. I think that's what the range is.
Right.
So that's a late second round pick with the additional third round pick, and that's probably going to be the Saints pick, most likely. We're looking at...
Yeah, I misspoke earlier. It's this. It will be the Saints pick. I think I said it was most likely to be Denver's, which is nonsense. Yeah.
But like Griff said, like, functionally speaking, like, it's just a trade down, essentially. It's a pick swap. So you're going down 15 to 18 to 20 spots to get 10 plus games of Leonard Williams, who could legitimately, like, have a major impact on your defense and maybe help you win a playoff game or two,
right?
Like, be a difference. And like, he might be like a win added here. Like, this move might be like an extra win added. So, like, he has the ability to have that impact. So, like, that to me is worth it.
And I think they'll think they're going to be picking 25 to 32, but probably like 27 to 32, right?
Yeah.
In terms of, like, the first round. And then a little trade down from there. Maybe you pick up something which then you can, if you want to get back into the second round, you know, to not miss out on that ledge of players, then you can do it. So, I think I agree with you, Ty, that it's the kind of the way it's initially reported, and obviously you have to wait for all the news to come out. But I think that, understandably, like, people were kind of surprised, like, oh, that's a bit steep. Maybe a third round pick. But then kind of when you see that New York's taking on that salary, you kind of are like, yeah, that's it seems like a good deal for everyone involved, I'd say.
Well, and again, and it might be very important for them to keep that $7 million in cap space to roll over to next year because of all the guys that they have to keep. I mean, that $7 million might be the difference in, keeping Damian Lewis or keeping Jordan Brooks or, signing a guy that helps them next year. Like,
and we like all knew that the interior defensive line was a problem for them. Like, even with how well Jaron Reed is playing, and he's played above their expectations along with ours. Like, they've come out and said that. We knew that they would need to make a move at some point. And ever since that draft where they decided, hey, you know what, Jalen Carter, good player, looks like a really great player on tape, but there's some stuff we're not comfortable with. We've done our due diligence and we're not okay with that move. We're going to take Witherspoon, and he's made an unbelievable impact. Yeah. Then they miss out on their day 2 guys. They go off the shelf a lot earlier than I think Seattle was expecting. They take Cam Young, who has done fine in the league. Day 3, solid nose tackle, but it's, a rookie nose tackle who went in day 3 for a reason. They knew that they needed to, even with the Draymond Jones blockbuster for them free agency signing, that they needed to be probably adding another guy. And I suspect since that point they've been working the phones, planning this move. Like, they'll have identified Williams as a potential. That's interesting. He's in the last year of his deal. He's been tagged twice. He's on this kind of contract where we could maybe work something out with the Giants if they are bad. And so it's proved. I'm sure the other names that we've spoke about in the past, like DeForest Buckner, was also on that list as well. It's just Williams is the guy. And, it'll be interesting to see what happens around the league. Griff, have you got any kind of front office thoughts on this other than your, I think, good point that this is like a funky trade down or pick swap?
No, I have no good front office thought.
Are you happy with Johnny?
I think we said, John boomed me once again. The theme of not liking his D-line moves, initially anyway, are proving to be, the Draymond thing. Beyond the Draymond.
So why is this different to Sheldon Richardson?
Well, so Sheldon's first 2 seasons, like they traded him after his 4th season.
Correct.
Right? So Sheldon's first 2 seasons were awesome, right? Like, he was ascending to be an elite 3 technique. And then in his 3rd year, he got moved to outside linebacker.
And he was suspended for the first 4 games for substance abuse.
Yeah.
For marijuana, apparently.
That's lame. But so he got moved out of position, and he played outside linebacker well for a 300-pounder. But so the Seahawks traded for him. They move him back to 3 technique, and like Sheldon does decent things. But then as that season progresses, everyone else gets hurt. I think Sheldon kind of shut it down effort-wise. He wasn't quite as involved. He didn't have the spacing to really be an impact player. And so, like, the main thing with Sheldon was they were trying to recapture the idea of what Sheldon was. And I was all for it happening. Like, it could have happened. You roll the dice enough times, you replay that reality, and maybe it does happen, right? Maybe if Cliff and who else got hurt? If Cliff and stays healthy and Michael Bennett doesn't get dinged up that year, who knows? Maybe Sheldon looks great. But regardless, who Leonard Williams is right now and who he was last year is better than the last season that Sheldon played with the Jets. And then he's also currently better than who Sheldon ended up being in Minnesota and then in Cleveland. I think those are the 2 teams he played for. And he was a decent player for those teams. He just wasn't, a difference maker, really. I think that Leonard he's still a difference maker. He's in that 3rd tier probably of defensive tackles, which is, there's a lot of good ones right now. So you're talking anywhere in that, 10 to 15, 17 range of 300-pounders. And there's that tier of players make a difference for their team. There's a lot of them out there right now. So,
yeah. And
you're still talking about a 75th percentile player,
Yeah. And also Richardson in his last year in New York, he was suspended 1 game for violating the off-field personal conduct policy regarding an arrest for, I think, reckless driving. So Williams doesn't have anything like that either, which, you can read too much into these things, or you can... that was a weird incident at the time. He doesn't have that, and the way Richardson's career panned out, it kind of suggests it... We don't know what went on, but definitely tailed off, like, as you've kind of described, Griff, for a whole host of factors, whereas I think Williams has just been really, really solid.
Consistent. There's just way more certainty with this.
Well, and also the circumstances of just what drove the Seahawks to make both of these trades are vastly, vastly different, like in complete other like galaxies from one another. Like, so
yeah,
like there's no comparison to make on any front, really.
Yeah. So it's nice also that he finished his career with the Giants. His last game, Week 8, apparently he had a 14.3% pass rush win rate, which is solid versus the Jets. And he also had, per Next Gen Stats, he had 7 pressures against the Jets, which is more than twice as many as he had in any other game this season. So he clearly did some great stuff in that.
That's
He's
strange,
still playing hard,
considering like I counted at least 5 against the Niners.
Yeah, it's always subjective, isn't it?
Right, right. But that makes me really excited to watch the Jets game.
Oh yeah. When it comes out, is it out yet?
Better be.
Wait, is it still not out?
Yeah, there's a delay. I think.
Oh my word.
Oh no.
No. Yeah. So yeah, really cool that my favorite football team got aggressive today. Happy with it.
Yeah,
added a good player. Thing. That's pretty cool. Pretty epic. If only a certain other executive across the street, would follow suit. Am I right, guys? Right? Did I win points with Mariners Twitter?
You are right.
That was so good. Well done.
Right. Yeah. There were multiple people in my mentions when I was like, cool. Hey, the Seahawks traded for Leonard Williams, and they're like, yeah, if only Jerry would do that. I'm like, that's your reaction. That's your reaction.
Yeah. And I should re-emphasize that Pete Carroll spoke really highly of Williams' character today in his press conference. So they clearly feel confident about that. And I don't know, you'd have to revisit what they said about Sheldon Richardson, but maybe they got a bit loose with that. I don't know. Griff, scheme fit, do you think he could play some nose tackle? Do you think we see that? Or we kind of spoke about that.
The Giants were afraid to play him at one technique when they just slide their front.
Right.
Sometimes they wouldn't flop if the tight end switched. They would they wanted to stand in over front or whatever.
Yeah.
They would just slide, and he held up fine.
It's
that was
Lawrence is such an obvious nose, isn't he?
Right. And that was more so for run purposes. But I'm really excited to see it for pass rush purposes on mixed downs, on early downs, on run downs. Because I really think that just, again, like the way they're gaming the protection, I think would cause havoc.
I really like him running pass rush games. When he's moving, he's pretty damn good at it. I think just the overload front with him and Reed or Draymond Jones on the same side, of a guard and a center, is there's a lot of twists and stuff they can do there, isn't there?
Sorry, go ahead, Griff.
No, you go ahead, Ty.
Well, I was just saying real quick, on the personality, from the personality perspective, did we mention he knows some guys on the team, and they know him?
No,
they seem,
Ty.
To get
no.
Yeah, Majambo mentioned he was teammates with Julian Love, obviously teammates with Jamal as well.
And Uchenna Nwosu
at USC, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And Pete Carroll mentioned how those guys had said to him, yeah, good stuff. So
yeah, so that probably plays a pretty big factor as well. Has a good rapport with guys in the locker room already. Anyway, what were you saying, Griff?
It was just another that scheme thing. When he's the 3 technique and the center guard slide to him, and the guard kind of slides past him, and there's that, that weird subjective who was really blocking him, who isn't. If the guard has eyes on the near edge or defensive end or outside linebacker, he has the length and the first step even if it's not the first step, like the second step, to just kind of knife that space in between the guard and the center or the A gap when they're sliding to him. And occasionally he can jump it because he's reading the play out. He knows what they're doing. He can jump it and get into the backfield. If you can imagine that, where he's over the center at one technique and they slide away from him, he can, I think, because that center is out on the island, he can just knife that A gap. And it'd be the same thing. And he can just ride his rip, and then his angle is even easier to the quarterback. I just feel like, for pass rush purposes, like even what we see at 3 technique can apply to 1 technique, and they can use him in a variety of ways. And so ultimately it means they've got 4 guys right now that if you leave one-on-one, if you give them a two-way go, they're going to make something happen. And you can even throw Miles Adams into that as a 5th guy, because he's shown that. So, like when they get into their second unit, or they have to spell guys, like we know it makes everything easier because they're playing less snaps, they can play more fresh. But there never won't be a guy on the field between Draymond, Jaren, and Leo where they feel like they've got to slide to one of these guys. And that means the other, including Edwards, the guy opposite him, will be able to feast. Like Edwards has looked insane, honestly, this year when he's had those rare, not even that rare, that's the whole point, those rare one-on-one with two-way goes. Like he feasted on it. So, and like watching Williams, like it's a lot of guys don't always get those. And if we consider like what Williams' PFF grade is relative to expectation, it's like imagine what he'd look like with more of these one-on-ones. So I'm really excited to see how they all work together and mesh. It's the skill set diversity is cool too. So I like it.
Absolutely. Now, the other thing, we've mentioned the NFC kind of landscape, but the news is that Matt Stafford, the Rams quarterback, has a confirmed UCL sprain in his thumb, which and the Rams are considering putting him on injured reserve because, in the past, quarterbacks have missed up to like 5 weeks or something like that. It could be even longer. So we'll have to see. Brock Purdy's obviously regressed, or has he? But he's then concussed, or is he? And there's all that kind of stuff going on. And the Niners have lost 3 straight games. Kirk Cousins with the Vikings looking like they could be like that team who comes back into it, does his Achilles, and so their chances are kind of done. And it seems like.
Well, real quick on that note, do we think the Seahawks would trade Drew Lock? Is there any chance of that happening? There,
probably not. I mean, I maybe Ty, but they'd have to get a pretty good offer, and it's almost a case of when those guys go down, they're like, well, thank goodness we have someone who we like the potential of, and right. We have a backup if something terrible was to happen to Geno, touch wood, it doesn't. Yeah.
Knock on wood.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't really see this as a massively all-in thing. I just think it's more, there's all-in and there's all-in, right? If they spent the $7 million and traded a first-round pick for an edge, that would be like,
like
this
really,
isn't Rams.
Really going for. Yeah.
This isn't Ramsian.
This isn't the fucking picks type of thing.
It's a nice midpoint.
Yeah,
really.
It's like, look, we believe in the team, but we're also not like sacrificing a whole lot future-wise.
Which is the philosophy they've always said.
Win forever,
yeah. They're not going to hurt the future of the franchise, but every year they'll try and put together a championship roster. There you go. So, chat, if you've got any questions, please do let us know. I see Tyler Johnson. Thank you so much for the donation,
Thank you,
Tyler. $20. That's
Tyler.
very kind. Thank you.
Appreciate that, man.
Chat, if you do want to donate, there's a Stripe link, which I've fixed in the description. There's also the YouTube Super Chat feature, which 3 of you have kindly used today. I think it's pretty intuitive. Make sure you get a super sticker. I mean, that pair, the light blue pair, was magnificent.
Super sticker.
There you go.
What are you guys' favorite Halloween candy? Real quick, while we wait for questions.
Favorite Halloween candy?
Yeah, or just candy in general.
Reese's or Baby Ruth.
Yeah, because you guys are proper into Halloween, aren't you? You're like nuts for it.
Well, that's the other thing too, right? I asked this question. We're doing questions of the day now at the end of every lockdown where we're asking the comments questions. But I asked them Do you consider chocolate candy, or is chocolate a separate thing from candy? Because some people like separate the two, and they get weird about it too. Are you guys freaks? Essentially, what I'm trying
well,
to get
obviously, I always use the term candy, so
it's candy.
Yeah, like if you ask me what's my favorite candy bar, like the only chocolate options run through my mind.
Right.
Like,
I say sweets.
Sweets. Okay. Yeah. Sweets.
That's so posh of you.
Yeah,
so
that is.
Well, it's just English, British.
Oh, it's London posh. It's English posh.
No, I think posh would be sweeties.
Would it really? Interesting.
Yeah.
So bar equals. Jen says bar equals chocolate, but chocolate is not candy. So candy is just confectionery.
I would say candy was. I wouldn't class chocolate as candy.
All right.
But I wouldn't get aggressively like upset or angry about that.
Right. My answer is Snickers, by the way.
But like, is that because you'd only have that for Halloween? Because you make such a big deal about Halloween. I don't. Isn't it Irish Halloween?
I have no idea.
And Griff, don't just behave yourself right now.
I thought it derived from Mexican culture, like Day of the Dead and all that.
Oh.
Have I just? I mean, either way.
Are you appropriating, Matty?
Well, I mean, the Irish have had a tough time of it too. Like, I don't think we don't have to have a competition here.
Are we doing struggle wars right now to close off Seattle Overload, episode 307?
One theory holds that many Halloween traditions were influenced by Celtic harvest festivals.
We have to go all the way back to our previous publication.
Let's go here. Let me go on Megaphone.
It's Christian, and it's celebrated in Ireland, Scotland for centuries.
Nice. Okay. That's so cool, Matty.
But I'm sure the Mexican Day of the Dead is relevant. I don't want to diminish that.
That's so epic, Matty.
Matty, do you ever think about how like Halloween has its roots in like Irish culture?
Yeah, I do. Vince, thank you so much.
Okay,
for
so
the money. How has Jamal Adams looked in man-to-man coverage after return? He hasn't really played man-to-man coverage.
Yeah. And his match opportunities, he looks fine.
He looks he looks nice in that, but he has. I don't think he's been matched up in zone. He had that really nice pass breakup on that seam route where he was matching the seam, but they don't play. If they were playing man, he'd probably get blitzed, or he'd play in in like a robber role. But just happens that they don't actually run that much man coverage. Or they'd be in dime where he'd be man on a running back. Yeah.
But thank you so much, Spence, for your question. I looked up the episode number. Well, there's clips in here too that are counting as episodes, but it says 337.
Oh wow, I was close. I just threw out a random number.
So are we at probably at 250, 200 to 250, somewhere in there, probably, in terms of episode number? We're trying to account for all the clips.
Oh yeah,
and that's just since the reboot.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, where are you going with this, Ty?
No, dude. Griff was just saying, we were talking about episode number. You were doing something else. So.
Oh right,
that's why you're lost. Yeah.
Don't worry. I was looking up that Halloween was actually a thing. And I wasn't being mean.
OG3, you're in Toronto? You're in my neck of the woods?
Of course.
Of course. Halloween Tree is a great kids movie about the history of Halloween and Halloween adjacent holidays. There you go. Maddie,
Thank you, Taylor.
It
sounds like these two need to watch that. I don't need to.
No, it sounds like you need to watch it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, Halloween candy, Reese's Pieces.
Reese's Pieces? You're a Reese's Pieces person?
That's good.
Reese's is really good, but I've never had that on Halloween. I've just had that in the Senior Bowl, and then when I am in the shops and I'm at the checkout, and there's the Reese's is over there.
The draft does start in Mobile.
It does. People forget that, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, OG3, you just need one more of us to complete the Holy Trinity.
Okay. Well, chat will be back on Wednesday. We will have, like I said, special guests to look at the Baltimore Ravens, Seattle's massive... Is that 10 a.m.?
Yeah.
Yikes. Massive road game. Oh, yeah. Cameron says Brits love Cadbury eggs. Well, Cameron, let me tell you about Cadbury eggs. So, Cadbury's was delicious British chocolate, which was very tasty. By no means was it great, but it was excellent. It wasn't like high quality. Like the cocoa content was bad. Like I think certain countries got upset that it was even called chocolate because there wasn't enough cocoa in it. But it was very tasty. And then a man called Robert Kraft personally decided to buy Cadbury's and ruin it. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Absolutely wrecked it. And this brings me to a topic that I've been wanting to get onto on the show. American chocolate is garbage. It's absolutely trash.
You
absolutely trash.
You did spew this take to us the other day.
What's wrong with you?
What chocolate are you talking about? Are you talking about like
all of it
crap you can buy anywhere? Like
Hershey's. I remember reading about Hershey's, or like hearing about it, seeing it in popular culture, and thinking that it was going to be amazing. And it made me feel sick. It tastes like absolute crap. Like
you go to
bottom.
You go to Bohm's. You go to a local shop in downtown Seattle. Buy some real chocolate.
Yeah, like go to
like we have in Belgium.
Yeah, you can get that stuff here.
Yeah, but you can't have... Yeah, but my issue is, if you were going to buy like a $1 bar of chocolate in Britain, you'd be able to have a really nice chocolate bar and not feel like you're eating cat sick. But in America, no, you just have Hershey's or something with loads of
Matty,
sweet peanut butter in it, which is nice, but it's not really chocolate. It's
Matty,
peanut butter.
I'm going to be honest. For someone who is a citizen of the country that transgressed on our nation in 1812, you're speaking mighty out of pocket right now.
But factually correct.
I'm just saying glass house.
Right, okay, come on. So you've been a very good boy. You've been a good boy.
Yeah, you can find good chocolate here, but it's more expensive.
Yeah, so I'm right. So what's wrong?
Matty, it sounds like you need to chew it over with Twix.
Yeah, Matty.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, and that's the other thing. Don't get me started on Three Musketeers and all that crap. Oh my god, it tastes so bad. What's wrong with it?
Have you ever had a Snickers bar though?
Yes, and it's worse. Why do they? What's wrong with them?
Dude, Snickers.
Trust me, I'll send you some European Snickers. Dude, it's different. It's different gravy.
You lost me with that one. You lost me with the Snickers.
No, you're eating Snickers. Dog poo. It's like a dog poo bar.
That was for you, Cam.
Nah, Snickers slots. Sorry.
Look, Matty.
I will not take any other answer.
To relax.
I'm not relaxed. It really upsets me because I hear all these great things about the US of A, and then your bloody candy or chocolate bars are awful. Oh, and what's the Mars bar one?
Okay, yeah, Mars is cheeks. Bro, and a lot of people up here likes Mars. Jen's probably gonna get mad at me.
I don't like Mars.
No, because do you know the other thing? Do you know the other thing as well? Go on. What does a Mars bar look like in the US?
You're
like the packaging.
It's like brown with like red lettering.
Matty, if you like chocolate so much, why don't you put on a purple blazer and go make your own?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh no, it's Milky Way. What on earth have you done to Milky Way?
Yeah, Milky Way. Yeah.
Why is it so bad? Google what a UK Milky Way looks like. It looks so much better, just the packaging.
Interesting.
And then it tastes good. Whereas Milky Way, you've got cat sick, you've got dog poo, and then Milky Way tastes just awful.
It's just it's really like I'm looking at the UK. Hold on.
I agree with Taylor.
Yeah, this is what Cam's saying. Milky Way just needs peanuts in it. Yeah, all of the chocolate needs peanuts in it because it tastes so bad.
Well, that's what Baby Ruth is
sugary
for. Baby
peanut
Ruth
in it.
bar is the best.
I like
Alright.
the what's the
Here.
butter the
Here,
butter
we
thingy.
We have this up on the stream. There.
Look at that. How
It's
nice
very-
does that look?
It's very whimsical. It's very whimsical.
I don't know.
What's
I don't know
wrong
about
with whimsical chocolate?
Matty, what do you eat for breakfast every day? You eat beans for breakfast every day.
That looks healthy. Why is it green? Why is it green? And why is the Milky Way green? And look at her face. She hates it. And she's Irish. She's not even British.
How do
She
you
hates
know
it.
that?
Irish
saying
people try American Milky Way. That's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, Griff, I've got really good
I was like,
identification.
damn, bro.
You can see
Anyway.
my towel. I've been exposed. I dry my
Matty,
towel on my
you're s-
whiteboard.
You're so upset, bro. Have you ever thought about just like calming down for 2 seconds?
How
Yeah,
about you just
Jen's
calm
right.
down?
Butterfinger's good, but it's the same point. You put peanuts in it, and it
Have you
masks how
had
bad the
a
chocolate is.
Baby Ruth bar?
Or
Probably.
100 grand.
But I don't
bar.
remember it, so it's clearly not
Payday.
memorable. But I honestly, I don't think you should just be allowed to keep saying stuff with peanuts in, because I agree with you on that. My
Alright,
point is the actual chocolate.
What about chocolate with wafers?
A
I'm
Kit Kat where it tastes
Like a Kit Kat.
cheesy. American Kit Kat tastes like cheese.
It doesn't. What cheese?
It's bad. It's bad.
What are you
It doesn't
talking
taste
about?
like cheese.
English
though.
Kit Kats are
Like,
far superior.
Like, all right. Like, I'm not a Kit Kat supporter, but like, I don't think it
Doesn't
tastes like
sound-
cheese. How does it
I'm
taste
sorry.
like cheese?
It's bad. All American chocolate is really, really bad.
All right. What about like peanut M&Ms?
Yeah, but you've proven the point. If it's got peanut
are
in it,
good.
it's disqualified because
What?
it will
All right,
taste
what
good.
about regular M&M? Well, actually, regular M&Ms are trash.
Yeah,
I agree.
there you go.
They
They
get
taste
old
like
fast.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm like super bored. Like after having like 4 M&Ms, I'm just like, nope, I'm good.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
This is a bad look for you. You've tried. You've tried really hard to defend America, but
Buy us some
unfortunately,
chocolate for
you
Christmas.
lose.
Then.
Yeah,
Buy us
Matty.
some chocolate for Christmas, then, Matty.
Well, I've just told you, bloody Robert Kraft came over and ruined our chocolate.
Matty, you are so
Well,
triggered.
not all of the chocolates are.
You are so mad.
No, not all of it.
You know what? I'm glad that our chocolate makes you angry. Because
Yeah.
look how mad you are.
Yeah.
I'm
glad you're upset.
raging mad.
Yeah, you're pissed.
You're stark raving mad.
You know what I'm not pissed about though? Leonard Williams on the Seattle Seahawks.
Boom. Hit it, Matty.
Hit it, Matty. We love you.